Hello, everybody. It's me, the Prince of FNAF. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Please consider subscribing if you are new. And without further ado, welcome to today's movie review. And this movie that we're going to be reviewing today is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I watched it on Netflix recently, and it's called AXL. Came out last year in 2018. Great movie. A lot of people might say it's not a great movie, but I, for one, personally love this movie. If you like animals, or you like robots, or what have you, you're definitely going to want to check this movie out. So, the first scene we're treated to in this movie is a sort of voiceover of the creator talking about his new asset, which is this robotic dog, and how they're trying to recreate man's best friend. They're trying to create the canine soldier, and so they finally do it. They create this thing called the AXL, which is supposed to replace the dog soldier on the battlefield, because they haven't been very successful. So they create it, and they call it the AXL. Now, that's an acronym. I don't remember what the acronym is for, though, but that's not really a big deal. So, after, we get the schematics and the blueprints for the dog, and we get to see a monologue of them trying to build the dog, which is pretty cool. We're then treated to a motocross event, where our main character is, in a race. He of course loses the first race, and the antagonist of the story, or one of the antagonists, wins. So he then gets a new chain, and in the next race, he pretty much beats this guy's ass. And so this guy that he beat has almost everything. He's popular, he's rich, he has everything you could ever want. So this guy tries to get to our main character, and brings him to his house. He's like, let's hang out. And then they go out into the wilderness, and they do a little derby, a crash derby. And of course, the main character fails and breaks his leg. And the antagonist of the movie takes this as a chance to get rid of him, so he's not ready to be in the next race, so he can win the next race. So they leave him out there with a couple tools and a can of gas. So this guy eventually gets his bike up and working again, and he hears some noises coming from a scrapyard. And he then goes over to a cargo bin, where he thinks the source of the noises are coming from. And he goes into the cargo bin, and he sees two glowing red eyes staring at him. He freaks out, and he runs away, and then you can hear growling coming from the area where he just was. So he's on his way to leave, and now, of course, the cargo bin doors are now open, and he gets freaked out. And then we're treated to a pixelized or digitalized vision of whatever this dog sees, and it's looking at him, and then we get to see the awesome movement of the dog. It really moves like a dog. It's running down the cliff at him. And so we're treated to this awesome scene where our main character is trying to get away from this dog, and the dog has got all sorts of these rockets. Its claws are folded up in its hand, so when it's trying to scratch him, the claws retract out of its hand, which is pretty cool. And so the dog chases him, causes all sorts of collateral damage, and then eventually it eventually hurts itself and gets stuck in a pile of rubble. So the guy picks it up and, befriends the dog and then fixes it. And then they become friends and they hang out together. And, they're friends now. And the drones eventually find the dog, because the military people who made the dog want it back. And then they see that the kid and the dog are actually interacting well to each other. And one of the employees for our main villain was like, dude, he's gonna rip him apart. Get that thing out of there. And he's like, no, wait, let's see how this plays out. So they watch, and he's like, oh my god, he's actually more contact he has with humans, the more human it becomes. This is great. We're getting all sorts of information that would take us years to get. So they sit and they watch for a while. And so then they decide that he and his, I guess, friend now, his girlfriend, come over. And they're like, well, we got to find a place to hide him. And so they hide him in this place. And the dog watches Sarah Reyes or whatever. She draws this really nice graffiti art in her secret base. And so they say, well, we can hide her here. And then the dog starts to go crazy. It goes crazy and starts displaying these images of war and the blueprints of the AXL. And so they see that Axel, which is what they named the dog, Axel was designed for war purposes. He was designed to kill people. And the thing that is cool about this is that this is the prototype. And they didn't even add any of the weapons on it yet. So there's no rockets, there's no missiles, there's no machine guns that it would have had on it. They never installed those features. So it's just the dog. But I thought it was pretty cool. And so so his girlfriend's like, he was designed for killing people. And so they're like, yeah. And then the secondary antagonist, I guess you would say, the secondary antagonist comes over and he's all like, oh, what you doing here? I practically gave you your life. You live because of me, you know? And I wouldn't suspect that you would stab me in the back hanging out with some other boys. And then the other guy comes up and like defends her. And then the antagonist guy, he comes and punches our main character in the face. Of course, Axel doesn't like that and comes on and freaking jumps on the guy, pins him down to the ground, and is about to bite his head off. When they're all like screaming, they're like, stop, stop, stop. And so our main character's like, hey, Axel, bring him to me. And so the dog comes over, brings the guy over to our main character, dumps him in front of him, and then he starts threatening him and stuff like that. And so then the guy just freaking runs away and leaves. And then his girlfriend is obviously like, what are you doing? He owns us. We're alive because of him. And you just freaking went and did it. You're exactly like him. When you have something of power, you're just like it. And so then he's like, well, you know what? I'm sorry, okay? I let myself go too much. So then they decide, yes, we're gonna take care of the robot dog. So they leave him inside of the place where she has her graffiti stuff. And overnight, this bastard freaking comes back and he drenches the ground in gasoline and then baits the dog over with a football and then lights it up. So they come back and they're like, no, he's dead. And he's still kind of operational because when they're like, hey, let us know if you're still in there. And his eyes turn on, but like he's so badly damaged. His eye sensors are barely functional. Like his eye sensors are barely functional because you can see the eyes are flickering. So they get him back to a 3D printing place, and they make new parts for him and basically rebuild him. And while they're waiting for him to reboot, they're sitting up hiding in this place, and then the military comes for him, and they're about to take him when our main characters distract him long enough so that he can finish his mobility, so he can finish downloading all the full files and stuff, and then he can finally be mobile again. So they throw a socket wrench into the distance, and that distracts him long enough for Axel to reboot and get himself moving again. And so Axel freaking roars at these guys, throws them onto the ground, and then we're seeing Axel. We're seeing the last images that Axel saw, which was this asshole douche guy from the motocross event, we see him trying to kill Axel, and eventually almost did. Axel's pissed off. Everything is all red to Axel now. His seeing is all red, and that's really cool because his emotions are color coded. When he's happy and peaceful, his eyes are blue. When he's angry and enraged, his eyes are red. So these eyes are red. So he's obviously, he goes to try to find this guy. He finds him getting fuel at a gas station and then tracks him down to a party or rave or whatever you want to call it. And our main characters realize, shit, he's going after him. We have to stop him. So they get over to the party, and so does Axel. Axel is on the roof and goes after this bully guy. I guess we're gonna call him the bully. Goes after the bully, and everyone starts screaming and running away, which I don't understand because he's not after them. He's only after this one guy. He gets him pinned down to the ground and almost kills him several times. And then they finally have a standoff, and the bully character frickin' uses a flamethrower on him again. But this time Axel stays away from the flamethrower so it doesn't get burned again, and waits for the flamethrower to be depleted of all its fuel, and then is about to make his attack when our main characters come up and like, stop, this is not good. You know this is wrong. And, of course, Axel, his eyes turn blue, and he's all happy again. And our main characters are, of course, happy once again. And no one died. And the military show up, and so our bully over there, he freaking runs off into the distance. They capture Axel and take him back to the base, and our villain is trying to reconfigure Axel's memories so that he can be in control of Axel now. So he eventually gets temporary control of Axel, and he tries to use it to kill our female, friend. And our main character is like, no, stop. She goes, every time she steps out of this box, your friend here is going to tear her apart. So she eventually gets this little, I guess, device, and she writes, she draws into the air so that Axel will remember her. She's like, hey, you remember this, buddy? And so she draws in the air the feather that she drew back at her little art studio. And Axel remembers this and goes back to being peaceful again and tries to attack his creator. And of course, our main character's like, no, stop. So Axel stops and runs off, and then they run away and they escape the facility only to gets cornered in this, I guess, these sand dunes or whatever, this place where it's all sandy and all rocky. They get stuck there, and Axel wants to protect his master, protect admin basically. And so he realizes the only way he can do that, because he knows how much the military people want him back, and they will shoot any way they can. So he basically runs off into the distance. They shoot at him. They send their drones at him to basically, demobilize him, because the drones are set up in the way, or when they clamp onto Axel, and then they start electrocuting him. So his systems are overridden, and then he, of course, can't move anymore. So he starts running across wherever they are at. I don't even know where this place is, but it's pretty sandy. So he starts running across there, and the drones are, of course, sent after him, and they start to electrocute him. And so as his body parts are slowly starting to fail, he runs to where he's far enough away from his master so he can destroy himself. So he blows up, and right before he blows up, he sends all of his memories and stuff to a cloud, and then he ends it. He blows up in smoke and fire, and then the military come for our main characters, and then we're treated to a couple years later, where our villain is still in a cell, and then they say, well, we picked up recent activity for your AXL asset. It seems to be moving again. It seems like it's putting itself back together. So we find out that Axel is still alive and is reassembling itself. So they were then treated to an awesome scene where he's like, so what I'm guessing, you want my help? And of course the military people are like, well, oh yeah, it's your thing. You know more about this thing than we do. So there's like, well then we gotta find it before it finds them. So then we're treated to a nice scene where our main characters are living happily ever after. They have a baby husky, and they go to, I guess, college. And they're having fun in college, and they get a package. Our main character gets a package from his father, and it says, I think this is for you. And it's the admin thing, whatever that thing, the little device is that when you put your finger on it, it automatically pairs Axel or AXL with whoever it has paired it with. So he pairs up again, and Axel is now paired to our two main characters once again. And then we hear one of the best lines in the movie, and I think this is one of the only things that Axel can say, and it's that thing where just before he ended up getting hurt and, abandoned in the plains that day where they freaking made him jump over that cliff and he got hurt, and those people from the motocross event just left him there. When he said, just before he did that trick and failed, he said, yo, send it. And then we're treated to Axel saying the same thing right after they pair with him, and you can hear, yo, send it. And then the credits roll. So, all the way, I think that this movie is a great film. I loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, this movie is a 10 out of 10 in my books. I absolutely love this movie. And I hope that the movie was popular enough for them to make a sequel. Because they've already pointed out that they could make a sequel. Because we're treated to Axel basically rebuilding himself. And then we're also going to be getting the villain coming back to try to find Axel before Axel finds our main characters. So that'll be pretty cool. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Do take care.